You know, when you walk onto a massive industrial site, like a chemical plant or maybe a petroleum refinery or even just a high-tech manufacturing floor.
Oh, it's overwhelming. The sheer scale of it.
Right. It is incredibly easy to be completely mesmerized by all of it. You look at these multi-million-dollar turbines spinning, the miles of complex steel piping
The
everywhere.
robotic arms doing their precise little dances.
Exactly. And you naturally think right there that hardware, that is the company's most valuable asset.
It's a natural assumption, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is what you can see, what you can physically touch.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's what you can put a clear depreciation value on in an accounting ledger. We are just wired to value the tangible stuff.
We really are. But then, you realize that none of that heavy machinery actually runs itself. The real asset, the actual heartbeat of that entire operation is entirely invisible.
Completely invisible.
It's locked away inside the heads of the people walking the floor. I mean, the senior operators who know exactly which valve always sticks or what that weird hum in the generator actually means.
The trigal knowledge.
Exactly. And today we are doing a deep dive into a newly dropped press release dated just a few days ago, June 2026, from EON AI Ventures. And they claim they have actually figured out how to extract that invisible asset overnight with something they're calling the scenario factory.
Which is huge because this is a critical bottleneck. Whether you're running a massive global energy conglomerate or honestly just trying to organize your own team's workflow.
Right, it's everywhere.
We are talking about a universal panic point, capturing expertise before it just walks out the front door.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is the situation on the ground right now that makes an AI intervention so incredibly urgent?
Well, to really understand the urgency, we have to look at this concept known in these industries as the knowledge cliff.
The knowledge club.
Yeah. And we are not talking about a gentle, manageable slope of attrition. The most valuable asset a company has, that institutional knowledge we just talked about, the stuff inside the heads of senior operators, it's walking out the front gate.
Because they're retiring.
Exactly. They're retiring.
Right.
But the cliff arrives because they are leaving so much faster than the library of their knowledge can possibly be built.
Okay, so let's look at the sheer math of the problem. Outlined in the source material, because this is where the old way of doing things completely falls apart.
It really does.
A single industrial plant might have something like 9,000 distinct procedures. We are talking about everything from complex electrical isolations and confined space entries to, routine startup sequences and emergency responses.
Right, and historically, the way we capture those 9,000 procedures is human-paced authoring, which is so slow.
Painfully slow.
A technical writer sits down with a senior engineer, watches them work, interviews them, drafts a standard operating procedure, an SOP, and then routes it through this massive chain of human review.
And according to the data in the release, a typical pilot program using this old method yields roughly 6 scenarios in 90 days.
6.
In 3 months.
I just want to pause and do the math on that for a second. 6 procedures every 3 months. That is 24 procedures a year. If you need to document 9,000 procedures, you're going to be at this for 375 years.
Which is mathematically impossible.
It's absurd. It's like trying to perfectly transcribe every single complex family recipe your grandmother knows by watching her cook one meal a month.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right, while she's actively packing her bags to move to Florida.
Yeah, she is going to be on the beach long before you figure out the secret to the marinara sauce.
Exactly. You'll never finish in time.
And that is exactly the feeling that heavy industry has been hitting for a decade. The people who truly understand these 9,000 procedures will be gone before you even scratch the surface. And this is exactly what EON AI Ventures claims to shatter with the scenario factory. The release says they are turning this from a sequential, human-paced process into an actual factory orchestrated by something called EON Conductor. So how does that fundamentally change the math?
Well, it changes the math by moving from sequential to parallel. EON Conductor orchestrates an en masse upgrade.
En masse meaning all at once.
Right. Instead of one human writer tackling one procedure at a time, Conductor spins up hundreds of parallel AI agents simultaneously. Each agent takes on a different procedure.
Oh, wow.
They author it, they verify it, and they push it through the pipeline all at the same time. The result is that an entire facility's process library can be encoded over a single weekend.
A weekend instead of 3 centuries. That is wild.
Yeah.
There is a quote in the source material from EON's founder and CEO, Dan Lajuskar, that focuses on the end result of all this speed. He says this is the difference between building a museum of procedures and a living compounding asset.
A museum of procedures is perfectly stated, because that's exactly what you get when things take years to document. By the time you finish writing an SOP for a turbine, that turbine has been modified, or the process is totally outdated.
It's just a static historical document behind glass.
Usually saved as a PDF that nobody ever actually reads.
Right.
But a compounding asset is functional, it's instantly accessible, and it actually adapts to reality.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting because I want to know the mechanics of how this actually works.
The under-the-hood stuff.
Yeah. How does an AI system possibly ingest all this highly technical information and build these procedures without a human engineer holding its hand every single step of the way? I mean, it can't just hallucinate a chemical plant.
No, absolutely not. It needs raw material, and it requires a massive ingestion engine to swallow it all. Scenario Factory takes in massive, unstructured backlogs of source material.
What kind of material?
We are talking existing written SOPs, thick technical manuals, recordings of expert capture sessions, and CAD models.
And just for those listening who might not work in engineering, CAD stands for computer-aided design. These are the pristine, three-dimensional digital blueprints of the machinery, right? Exactly as the manufacturer designed it.
Right, but, machinery on the floor rarely looks exactly like the CAD model after 5 years of heavy use.
Right, somebody added a different bolt or bent a pipe.
Exactly. So the system also ingests photogrammetry.
Which is essentially stitching thousands of high-resolution photographs together to build a highly accurate 3D spatial model of the actual physical plant.
Right down to the scuff marks and the duct tape on the handles.
The messy reality.
Exactly. It takes the idealized CAD blueprint and reconciles it with that messy reality of the photogrammetry. It also ingests what the source calls frozen legacy SCORM libraries.
Okay, I have to translate that one too. If you have ever worked in corporate training, you know SCORM. Those are the dusty, click next to continue digital compliance modules from a decade ago.
Yeah, everyone's favorite training modules.
Right, so it basically eats all of that unstructured data and fans it out across hundreds of subagents.
And importantly, these agents operate with what is called resumable state.
Resumable state. Explain how that works under the hood.
Well, think about having a computer run a massive calculation. If the power blips or the system crashes, traditional software often has to start over from the very beginning.
Which is a nightmare.
Total nightmare.
Well, right.
And when you are processing an entire factory's worth of data, you cannot afford to restart. So resumable state means the agent constantly saves its precise location and logic path. If a process is paused or interrupted, the agent remembers exactly where it was and picks up from that exact microsecond.
It's like leaving a bookmark in a 1,000-page novel instead of being forced to read from page 1 every single time you sit down to read.
Precisely. So each of these hundreds of bookmarked agents runs through a full 11-step pipeline. They call it the Genesis pipeline.
11 steps.
Right. And the AI is actively doing the heavy lifting of instructional design and technical authoring at the same time. It doesn't just output a new Word document.
Which would be the museum approach.
Exactly. It correlates a text instruction like turn the pressure valve 90 degrees with the actual geometry of the 3D model.
The source mentions it drafts a governed 3D digital twin and generates packages like CMI5 and xAPI automatically. Again, filtering the jargon here. xAPI and CMI5 aren't just tech bro buzzwords.
No, they're very specific.
For anyone outside of human resources, they are basically standardized tracking languages. They allow software to record exactly how a worker interacts with a training module. It tells the system, did the worker actually look at the warning label or did they just blindly click past it?
Right. It embeds the tracking, the physics, and the visual steps into one interactive package.
Okay, but wait a second. I have to push back here. I'm reading this and I am thinking about the reality of heavy industry. We are talking about highly toxic chemicals, confined space entries, lockout act procedures, where if someone turns a breaker on at the wrong time, another worker gets electrocuted.
The stakes are incredibly high.
Hazards are everywhere. A confidently wrong AI hallucinating a safety step like telling you to open a high-pressure valve before bleeding the line isn't just an embarrassing typo, it is a literal disaster.
People could die.
Exactly. So how do we possibly trust this?
What's fascinating here is that EON AI Ventures had to architect the entire system around that exact objection.
Because they knew people would ask.
Absolutely. Because in a corporate email setting, an AI hallucination is a nuisance. You send a weird email. In a refinery, it is fatal. That necessitates a completely different safety architecture, which they have built primarily through a feature called EON Verdict.
EON Verdict,
Right.
which essentially acts as a red team.
Yes. It is adversarial verification. Before any AI-drafted procedure ever goes to a human for review, adversarial AI agents actively try to break the newly minted 3D digital twin.
It is essentially a digital cage match. One AI is programmed to build the procedure, and another AI is specifically programmed to tear it apart and find the physical flaws.
That is the exact mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
The drafting AI says, here's the sequence, and then the adversarial agent tests for wrong tolerances.
It's actively looking for trouble.
Yes. It cross-references the spatial model looking for missing hazards. It deliberately searches for unsafe sequences. It will ask, hey, did you instruct the user to remove the physical safety guard before cutting the power?
Oh, wow.
And the drafting AI and the adversarial AI just argue back and forth until the procedure converges on a mathematically safe and verifiable state. It must survive the red team to advance.
I mean, I understand the mechanism, but I'm still skeptical. What happens when both AIs have a blind spot? What if the red team misses the fact that the physical environment has changed in a way the original data just didn't capture?
Which is a very real possibility.
Right. And if I still have to sit down and manually review 9,000 AI-generated procedures to make sure they aren't going to blow up my plant, this factory hasn't really saved me any time at all.
And that is exactly where the triage system comes in. EON Verdict acts as a massive filter, not an autonomous dictator.
Okay.
It routes only the genuine ambiguities, the really complex corner cases where the adversarial agents cannot reach a safe convergence, to a single senior human review queue.
Oh, so it's essentially using a triage system to prevent alert fatigue for the engineers.
Exactly. After a weekend run, the senior engineering team isn't checking 9,000 procedures from scratch.
Which would take forever.
Right. They're just reviewing the few hundred specific cases that the system itself flagged as needing human judgment.
That does change the math. It respects the human's time by focusing their expertise only where the AI admits it lacks context.
And the press release is very explicit about the limits of the AI. They lay out 3 concrete guarantees baked directly into the architecture.
Let's go through them.
Guarantee number 1, it checks itself first. That is the adversarial red team we just talked about.
Right.
Guarantee number 2, it asks when unsure. On a safety-critical step, if the system cannot definitively prove it is safe, it stops. It escalates to a human rather than bluffing its way through.
So it is simply not designed to guess when lives are on the line.
Never. And guarantee number 3, which is crucial for compliance, everything is on the record.
The paper trail.
Yes. Every action, every decision made by the AI, every human intervention is logged. It is completely reversible, and most importantly, it is mapped to established industrial safety frameworks. Things like ATEX for explosive atmospheres, OSHA standards, and API.
Let's clarify API for a second because, in a tech context, listeners will probably assume API means application programming interface.
Yeah.
But given the context of heavy industry.
Yeah, totally different here. In this context, it refers to the American Petroleum Institute, which sets the rigorous safety standards for the oil and gas industry. The AI checks its work against those literal regulatory frameworks.
So the AI never gets the final say on its own on a step that could hurt someone.
Exactly.
We've talked extensively about how this factory builds these procedures safely and, incredibly fast. But a procedure sitting on a hard drive doesn't actually help a worker out on the floor.
No, it doesn't. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Scenario Factory is not an isolated product. It is merely Station 2 on a massive 7-station self-reinforcing loop that EON calls the intelligence flywheel, or the Human 2.0 operating system.
H2O.
H2O, exactly.
I want to trace a single procedure through this flywheel because just listing off stations doesn't really explain how they interact.
Sure.
Let's imagine a worker needs to perform a lockout procedure on a high-voltage pump. How does this loop actually function in reality?
Okay, let's follow that pump. It starts at Station 1, Genesis 3.
Huh.
This system literally watches a senior expert isolate that high-voltage pump once, capturing their physical actions and the environment.
Then it moves to Station 2, Scenario Factory, which is what we've been discussing. The ingestion engine and the adversarial red team take that captured data and automatically build the governed, verifiable 3D digital twin of the procedure overnight.
Exactly. Now we need to get it to the floor. So, Station 3 is delivery, handled by Field IQ and Brainy.
Field IQ and Brainy.
They deliver that finalized procedure directly to a junior worker in the field, overlaid onto smart glasses.
Oh, wow. So the junior worker is looking at the physical pump, but seeing a digital step-by-step 3D overlay showing exactly which breaker to pull and which valve to turn.
Yes, it's right there in their field of vision. But as they perform the task, Station 4 activates. Assess IQ. This system uses multi-camera capture to verify competency in real time.
Verify competency. How exactly does a camera verify competency?
Well, it uses computer vision to track the worker's hands and the physical state of the machinery. It constantly compares the physical reality against the digital twin.
So it's watching them work.
Yes. If the procedure says turn the wrench 90 degrees, but the camera sees the worker turn it 180 degrees to get a stubborn bolt loose, the system spots that discrepancy immediately.
And that discrepancy feeds directly into Station 5, compound IQ.
Exactly. If the worker found a necessary workaround like maybe a pipe has settled and just requires more torque, compound IQ analyzes that discrepancy. If it evaluates it and finds it safe, it turns that real-world adaptation into a sharper, updated procedure for the very next shift.
So the manual is constantly rewriting itself based on the reality of the floor. It creates this evolutionary loop.
A completely closed loop overseen by Station 6, Verdict, and the Integrity Suite. That runs the adversarial verification on those updates and manages a provable trust ledger.
And then Station 7.
Running this entire orchestra is Station 7 Conductor, which routes every compute task to the right tier of AI model so it all flows seamlessly.
That is incredible. It basically turns an enterprise's daily operations into a living asset that a competitor cannot just buy or scrape off the internet.
No, they can't.
They are generating proprietary intelligence just by doing their normal daily work. And, the part that really anchors this for me is that we aren't discussing a theoretical white paper predicting what might happen in 2035.
No, this is happening now.
Right. The source explicitly notes that the 90-day H2O pilot starts right now, today, June 2026.
Cohort 1 is launching. It is a limited pilot for 10 anchor industrial enterprises.
Yeah.
And they're not starting with low-stakes administrative tasks either.
No.
They are starting with OSHA 29 CFR 1910.147, which is the federal standard for the control of hazardous energy. Lockout ad procedures.
Wow.
They're trusting this system to author the exact procedures that keep workers from being electrocuted or crushed.
Which requires an immense amount of existing infrastructure and trust. I mean, EON AI Ventures isn't some startup that pivoted to AI 6 months ago to catch a trend.
Not at all.
According to the release, the substrate for the system has been 25 years in the making. They serve over 4,400 institutional customers across 80 countries with over 136 million platform downloads.
They have spent decades laying the foundational tracks, the spatial computing, the digital twins, the compliance mapping, and now they are basically running the high-speed AI bullet train right on top of them.
So what does this all mean? I really want to bring this massive industrial scale back down to your everyday life listening to this.
Yeah, make it relatable.
Even if you don't work in a chemical refinery, even if you've never had to isolate a high-voltage turbine, the core mechanism here is universally relevant.
Completely.
The idea of a system that can take what your company knows, digitize it perfectly, verify it adversarially, and turn it into a compounding loop, that is the ultimate cure for information bottlenecks everywhere.
We all suffer from the knowledge cliff in some capacity. Every single organization has that one person who holds the keys to the kingdom, and when they go on vacation, everything grinds to a halt.
Yeah.
This technology represents the structural end of that vulnerability.
But, solving that vulnerability creates a completely new dynamic.
It does. And this raises an important question. And it is a profound shift in how we view our roles that I really want to leave you to mull over.
Okay.
We have spent this entire deep dive talking about the mechanics of perfectly capturing human knowledge. But if an AI system, like the intelligence flywheel, can perfectly capture, adversarially verify, and deliver every known routine procedure directly to a worker's smart glasses,
Right.
does the true value of a human worker completely shift?
That is the ultimate consequence of this technology, isn't it?
Think about it. If you no longer need to spend decades memorizing the routine, because the system provides the routine instantly and flawlessly, does human expertise become purely about how well you improvise?
Wow.
Does our fundamental economic value solely reside in how we react when something completely unprecedented happens? Something entirely outside the AI's understanding.
It takes us right back to the beginning of the conversation. You walk onto the floor, you look at the steel, and you think, that's the asset. Then you realize it's the knowledge in the worker's head. But if the knowledge is safely backed up in the scenario factory, maybe tomorrow. The real asset isn't what the human knows, but what the human can invent in the exact moment the blueprint fails.
A completely fascinating paradigm shift.
It truly is. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the EON scenario factory and the mechanics of capturing expertise. We really hope we help you unpack the invisible assets in your own world.
Absolutely.
Keep learning, keep questioning the systems around you, and most importantly, stay curious.